Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we are going to be talking about the spell Aura of Purity. All right, this is Paladins and Clerics, correct?
Yep.
And it is 4th level?
4th level.
I was looking over the spell description, and this does not feel like it's worth 4th level. No, all right.
I would go as low as 2nd level, and then I would consider being like, okay, I get it. No, not at 4th.
2nd level, okay, that's justified. I'm still not going to use it.
Yeah, that's honestly where the spell lands. So, Aura of Purity has functionally 2 things. It gives you, 3 things. The first one's barely a thing because diseases aren't well supported. Immunity to diseases for creatures in the area. All right. If there were more interesting diseases, which is something that I really wish they just again spend I think my number 1 complaint about this edition is they didn't spend enough time fleshing out poisons and diseases. That needed another 3 months in the tank. So it gives you you can't be diseased while you're within the area. That's one thing it does. It gives everyone in the area resistance to poison damage, and everyone in the area advantage on basically all conditional saving throws. So blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, paralyzed, poisoned, and stunned. You have advantage on saving throws against those effects. Herein lies the problem with Aura of Purity. The majority of fights are going to be sacks of hit points with damage dice attacking you from different angles. This does nothing in those fights, period. No text. In fights where you're going against creatures that are trying to blind, charm, deafen, frighten you, you would need this to do so many things you need so many creatures to pass that it would have failed for this to justify being cast. You need to have like a frightful presence on a dragon, have every member of the party going to have failed and have them pass for this to make a difference. Most of the time, that's not going to happen. The vast majority of the time, even if you're going against something that is mass blinding, that is mass charming, this is only going to really change 1 or 2 failures with advantage to successes. And that is not worth a 4th level spell, especially on a paladin. And it requires everyone to be clumped together. Like all of this comes together to say, you really are going to find next to no encounters where this is good. There'll be 1 or 2 a campaign where you're against a poisonous gas cloud that is also poisoning you and deafening you or blinding you or some shit. And then you're going to be like, okay, this has reduced a decent chunk of incoming damage that couldn't have been mitigated by spreading out. And this has saved some people from becoming paralyzed. It is now worth this cast.
Well, even the poison cloud that blinds you, the blindness that it does is more often obscurement, which isn't a blind condition. That's that's exactly the point, right? Like this is so rarely going to have a proactive effect. You are so rarely going to know when it's going to matter to like prepare it ahead of time that it lands as a spell. You will get 1 good cast out of this campaign, and when you do, you'll be like, okay, great, I negated. Because we were against 12 ghouls and or 12 ghasts, whatever the paralyzing undead is. And all of them were hitting us because they got the drop on us. And I happened to know we were going to go fight ghasts, so I prepared Aura of Purity. You will get to the 1 instance where the spell is good. Every other instance that you're just like, I don't have any reason or want to cast this. Even against something that is like a breath weapon. Like if you're against an ancient black dragon that's doing a poison breath weapon, standing in breath weapon formation to get this effect isn't good. You're probably taking more damage because of your formation than you would be spreading out. So like the best use cases for it are so rare and so niche. I can't fathom justifiably casting this. I'm with you 100%. There were things I was going to say, but you said them all.
Yeah, it is not good. The aura spells are uniquely bad. They take.
Although I might argue with them with you about some of them later, but not this one. I mean, I don't think I've ever been in a campaign, and I've been playing for a long time. Different editions. I don't think I've ever had a character who was diseased.
Yeah. I think it's genuinely a really cool idea. I think it needs to be the mechanic needs to be built around having short-term impact effects that affect your adventuring state, because whenever you have long-term diseases, no one gives a shit. You just cast less restoration and they have the problem solved, right? Like if you develop whooping cough adventuring,
The solution is cast lesser restoration before symptoms show. And that's not interesting. What's a lot more interesting is like a filth fever rotting away at the body and dealing you 1 damage every minute. And then you have to address it, or it's some kind of disease that actively changes how your move speed works. Or, there can be different ways to attack it where it can be immediate problems. They just don't really exist. And if they were more well supported, it'd be a little bit more interesting. Unfortunately, monks and paladins are just like, yeah, never mind. I'm immune to that regardless. So if you're a paladin, that isn't a line of text for you. You are already immune to disease, so you have no reason to get that benefit. That's just a moot part of the spell, which is kind of lame.
Well, that's not, as a paladin, you want to help your companions.
Conceivably, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do wish that could be relevant text. If there were a handful of monsters that diseased you, like why the base rodent doesn't have a disease variant, why giant rats don't have a plague vermin variant, that feels like the natural first fit, right? Like, how many role-playing games, like digital game RPGs, have poison damage attached to rats, right? Like, even something like Hades, the super popular roguelite, the rats are all poisonous and diseased up in the top layers, and that is glaringly missing from Dungeons and Dragons. And this spell feels it for that reason. This spell is worse because there's an underdeveloped portion of the game. I don't know.
How would you feel if instead of advantage on saving throws for all the other conditions, it was just immunity?
Then the spell is moderately usable. Then we have a real spell that you're not set up to cast as a paladin. Then you have a spell that's like, okay, great. No one is getting frightened. No one is getting paralyzed. And the cost of it, right, is having to be within that area. The condition of it is, yeah, you mitigate a large amount of conditions, but fireballs can drop your concentration, and then you're still stuck in the cloud kill, right? Mm-hmm. And you have this neat little someone string back and forth with the concentration makes sense. Honestly, that takes a spell from being completely unusable to having moments in the game where you'll be happy you cast it, because then you at least feel like, oh, this outright mitigates this from happening altogether, right? Advantage has the problem where if you ever cast a spell that grants a creature advantage and they would pass anyway, that feels kind of crappy, right? Whenever you guiding bolt something and the paladin rolls an 18 and 19 to hit it, you're like, oh, I didn't really do anything. It was going to hit regardless. And that doesn't feel great. And this is definitely in the camp of, if they're going to fail it, if they roll a 3 and a 4, they fail. If they roll a 9 or a 15 and a 17, they pass anyway. And then you're like, how many times does this actually affect the rolls and outcomes? And I think the answer to that question is very low, very few. And you need to affect like 3 or 4 to make it worth the action to cast it in the spell slot.
I guess in a bigger party who aren't worried about being in fireball formation, it could be more useful.
Sure. I just so many of those conditions are going to be based on area, right? Like thinking of like something as simple as color spray. That is an area that you've now grouped together to be blinded. If you had spread out, color spray only hits one person. One person making a saber being blind is a lot better than a whole bunch of people making a saber being blind. So, like, even in the conditions where you're like, if you have a larger party, grouping them all together is gonna often put them more in effects of conditional problems than they would otherwise. Like,
yeah, I agree 100%. Are we done with this one?
We can be. It's bad. Again, there'll be one encounter a game where you'll be against the things that don't care about an area that also have a large amount of this condition. And you might have prepared this for the right moment. Chances are you didn't. So this spell should never be on your character sheet. You 1 out of 5, garbage spell.
Yeah, agreed. 1 out of 5. All right. Well, I guess that was Aura of Purity. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for watching and listening. We will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.